We did it, boys. Hope is back on the menu. Hello, everybody. It's me, Scoop, and there's no use getting around it. I'm so happy that Superman is good. Now, let's be fair, there are a few caveats here. This isn't some flawless, perfect masterpiece. It's not reinventing the superhero genre, but I would be willing to say that it is reinvigorating it. At least for me. I will be seeing it one more time on Sunday in IMAX this time, actually, at the AMC in Times Square in New York City. So I'm very excited for that, both for the IMAX experience and just to watch the movie again, in all honesty. This will be a spoiler-free review. I'll probably delve into spoilers later after I watch it for a second time. So first and foremost, we gotta talk about how Superman is presented in this world. And this takes three different forms. There's both Superman as he's presented as, Superman to us, the audience. How he's filmed, how he acts, all that sort of stuff. How Superman is viewed by the citizens of Metropolis, and how Superman is viewed by the government of this world. And in all of these aspects, I really think that James Gunn absolutely nailed it here. The people of Metropolis love Superman. They look up to him as this ultimate source of hope, this total sweetie pie savior, because that's exactly what it is. He shows that at every opportunity. During that kaiju fight that's all over the marketing and all the trailers, like I said, there's not really any spoilers here, but during that fight, he saves a squirrel from getting stomped on. He checks on civilians to make sure they're all okay and they're good to go before he goes back into the fray. He tries to take that beast down without hurting it too badly. He is just the best guy. He is so sweet and so wholesome, and it's amazing to watch this on screen. It's also important to note that this wouldn't be done without David Cornsweet's pretty much spot-on performance. He is pretty perfect casting. I have to say, it doesn't have that Robert Downey Jr. or Andrew Garfield feeling to him where it's like, yes, David Cornsweet is Superman. I can't picture anybody else in that role any better than he is, but he is still definitely nailing it here, both as Clark Kent and as Superman. It seems like most of the internet was pretty well sold on his performance. From that one clip in the main trailer, where he's sitting down with the interview with Lois Lane, and you can literally hear him switch from Clark Kent to Superman when he hits you with that Miss Lane.
Let's do it, Cronkite.
Superman.
Miss Lane.
And yes, he plays both perfectly. I would say perfect is a strong word, so I have one little criticism of him. I think when it comes time for him to yell or to act like very injured and kind of stumble around a little bit, that could definitely use a bit of work. A lot of the Snyder bots online have called out his line, also from that trailer scene where he's being interviewed by Lois, where he gives the "people were going to die" line delivery, and yeah, it probably could have used another take or so to sound less like an annoyed teenager and more like a frustrated Superman. Whatever, there's a few minor moments like that where I wasn't feeling it all that much. And in the first half of the film, there's definitely a couple of moments where Superman kind of gets mollywopped, pretty bad. And when he's, struggling and getting helped by, some of the civilians, or he's getting back to his feet, from Cornsweet, it just feels weirdly fake. He's sort of trying to figure out, how to, hold his injured parts and how to grunt and groan properly. By the final act, the big final battle here, he is still getting knocked around pretty bad, and it just didn't have this problem, so I don't know if they filmed the final battle towards the end of production and Cornsweet was just better at this part of the role by then, or what it was, but I don't know, just something to watch out for in future entries. I would also really love to point out that David Cornsweet is the first Jewish actor to portray Superman, which is awesome. Thank you for representing us, but also, you're not representing us too well because you are 6'4", and most of us guys are around 5'10", so you're a little bit of a notch above, but it's cool. I'm still happy you're around like that. The way Superman is shot in this movie is also pretty good. I wasn't sure how to feel about the logo being on the back of his cape. When he was standing around, it looked pretty cool, but in some of the shots in the trailers and clips online, in motion it looked a little bit funky, it was a little distracting. But James Gunn, he understands the power of the Superman logo. That logo is genuinely inspirational. You look at it and it fills you with hope and optimism. There could be a better tomorrow, perhaps you could say. And so there's a lot of shots in the movie where right before Superman does something pretty either heroic or badass, we get an extreme close-up of the logo on his chest. However, there is one really cool shot where Superman is flying around, he's about to beat the brakes off of somebody, and we get a close-up of the logo on his back before the camera twirls around and gives us an extreme close-up, fills the frame with the one on his chest before pulling back just a little bit, and Superman just clobbers a dude. That shot was everything I wanted. That right there. Oh baby. It was great. Or just when Superman is saving people, you get, shots of him you get some back shots of Superman, and just having that logo be present in those back shots. It's beautiful to see it. It's just part of that inspirational figure that Superman needs to be. Of course, while we're talking about the perception of Superman, we gotta mention how the government in this film feels about him. They're not too happy with him, as you might expect. Superman is established, they call him a metahuman in this movie, which I don't love, because he's not. He's an alien. But it seems like this universe is kind of using metahuman as like a more scientific term for superhero. So it's less about metahuman, and it's more like, this is an individual that, like, from our perspective has superpowers. So like Superman's a metahuman. So Superman is, of course, the most powerful metahuman on the planet. It's not really a contest, pretty much full stop. And so the government kind of has to contend with that. They don't love metahumans, so they especially don't love them when they start meddling in complex foreign politics without consulting anybody. Which, honestly, like, that's kind of fair. Of course, we understand Superman's perspective that people were going to die, and he just needed to help them, like, so valid. But it's also like, the full interview scene gets meaty. It is good. There is some complexity there. I also like that the government isn't just this outright super evil, shadowy organization, especially because they work with Lex Luthor in the movie. So having them be a little more middle grounded, like they're kind of waiting for the right moment, the right optics to kind of go after Superman, it lets Lex seem a lot more dastardly and menacing in comparison, because he's out there scheming and doing all this evil shit right under their noses, and they have no idea. So it's sort of like the government gets to kind of be evil because they're working with Lex Luthor, but the evil onus all gets put on Luthor and builds him up as a bigger and better villain, which is pretty much a perfect balance. And yeah, Lex Luthor in this movie is incredible. Nicholas Hoult is giving such a good performance. This might be one of my favorite villain roles, like, in movie history. He is just so evil and maniacal and dastardly and all those comic booky words you could possibly throw at him. He nails all of it. Like, I almost have no words for how great Lex Luthor is as a villain in this movie. Like, he's such a snot-nosed little shit. There's any little moment with him on screen is so good. Like, there's this one part where he's just really mad, so he knocks over like a cup full of pencils on his desk, and all of his little interns start picking them up, and then right as they clean up and put it back on his desk, just to be a dick, he just kind of flicks it back over off the desk again. And it's like, there's just so much little stuff like that that's just, it's so funny and so good. I also really love the reveal that comes towards the end of the film in terms of Lex Luthor's ultimate plan. The reveal is not, like, important to the plot. It's not an, oh, that's what he was planning all along type of moment. It was more just like it was like a real life version of that Flashpoint movie edit where Reverse Flash is like, it was me, Barry.
I jerked you off at super speed so it'd seem like you nutted at just a woman's touch.
So ridiculously over the top and evil that I actually laughed out loud. I don't think you're supposed to laugh at this moment. Like, it's not really a comedic moment, but I also wasn't laughing to make fun of the movie. I was just laughing because I was having a great time. I was like, yeah, man, of course he fucking did that. Like, he is that evil and that ridiculous that he would do that. So I think the actual plot of Superman will, of course, be the most divisive element of the film. I think most people are probably agreed that all the casting is really good, the characters have great chemistry with each other, the actual portrayals of their comic book forms, it's all pretty much spot on. Like, it's all just amazing. They're so great to watch together in this well-crafted world, but the plot of the film is a little janky. There is a lot going on, and it moves really, really quickly. Cosmonaut Variety Hour, I just watched his review before recording this after I finished writing my own. He mentioned that this movie feels like a collection of a bunch of mini Superman stories that all kind of loosely fit together, and he's definitely accurate in that way. Like, there's a lot of moments in this film that could have probably been the third act of other Superman movies, but here, you kind of just get thrown them at like a breakneck pace, but it works really well. I think that's the important part, at least from my perspective. I could certainly understand if some people enter this movie and they feel overwhelmed. Like, you enter this film in what feels like it should be going into the third act, or maybe like halfway through the second act or something like that. And it kind of just picks up from there. It slows down a little bit to allow you to like catch back up and really get situated before the film really starts building again. But like personally, I was on board the whole time. There's an opening text crawl that I think has been especially divisive. I personally loved it. The last line of that text crawl, I looked at that and I was like, immediately I was like, I can rest assured I'm in for an absolute treat with this film. Yeah, that's my personal take on it, but it is a lot. I'm definitely willing to admit that. So what is actually going on in this film? Like, once again, just without spoilers, there's this war that Superman is interfering with. Lex Luthor has this master plot that kind of has to do with the war and him and his connections with the government and this like anti-Superman prison/squad he's like trying to build up because obviously he hates Superman. And Superman and Lois have this, they're about 3 months into their relationship, and at this point it's kind of like a situationship, so they're trying to navigate that. There's a lot, man. I can't even list all of it. So it would be very fair to criticize this movie for just not having the time or the energy to properly dig deep into any one of these elements, but to me, every element here is done well enough, and it feels like it fits together in such a great like world building package. Everything may be touched on kind of lightly, but when it is touched on, it's pretty much perfect. So like, I don't really care. I'm sure a stronger alternative for the script would have been just this really tight back and forth battle between Superman and Lex Luthor, where we're witnessing this 3-year long plan of Lex Luthor's finally culminate in like this 2 to 3 day showdown, and every scene is really digging deep into their dynamic before we finally get this major ideological showdown at the end of the film. And we don't really get that. Instead, what we get is a bunch of like mini Superman and Lex Luthor stories that sort of go hand in hand with each other, like a bunch of puzzle pieces kind of being placed together as you go. And like I said, the culmination here, there's this big moment in the third act, right at the end of the final battle. Superman is done with all of Lex's backup plans and fought through all of his goons. It's just the two of them face to face. And this just doesn't feel as climactic and heroic as I think it was meant to. The moment hits all of the right character and story beats. It's just, I think the dialogue and just the overall way that this scene kind of plays out. Could use a little zhuzh, another pass or two in the script, another draft or whatever, but it's all right. It's not enough to derail the film, but it's a little bit underwhelming just kind of right at the end there. But like I said, every element that is introduced does feel very well placed and very well thought out as part of this larger package. Like I said, this movie feels reinvigorating to the superhero genre just because it's so sweet and so hopeful, and it's the first superhero film in a long time where I'm genuinely excited not just to see more of like our lead characters, but just to see more of the world at large. Like, if Metropolis is so crazy that it gets attacked like 3 or 4 times during this movie, and half the citizens are basically unfazed because of how often this happens, man, do I want to see what Gotham City looks like in this world. This movie even got me hyped for Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. I mean, just purely based off of like what we get to see of the Fortress of Solitude and the Superman robots and how Superman's relationship with Krypto kind of gives us some hints at what Supergirl's personality is probably like, and what gets explored with Superman's relationship to Krypton and how Supergirl has definitely a very different relationship to Krypton than he does. Like, all of that is very interesting, so I'm curious to see how they actually let this character take shape within this universe, especially because she's someone that's usually kept on the back burner and gets introduced like later into these stories. So getting to see her brought up really quickly when Superman is kind of the main Kryptonian of this universe, like, I'm excited to see what that dynamic is, man. I mean, hell, I'd dig a Mr. Terrific miniseries or something. He was awesome in this movie. Never in my life would I say, oh, I'm a Mr. Terrific fan, but like every line reading he had was pretty incredible. He was super enjoyable to have on screen, and I'm honestly pretty shocked by his screen time, but him and Superman, they made a pretty solid duo. Overall, I have so few complaints about Superman. Like I said, it really was everything I wanted. A bright, wonderful, hopeful superhero that emboldens his city to be better people, just an over-the-top, ridiculously evil villain for him to go against, a beautiful romance to back it all up. I mean, Superman even gets to tag team the bad guys with his dog, like they're hitting them with these wombo combos. What more could you possibly ask for? 4 out of 5 stars. I mean, I'm watching it again on Sunday, but I know I will be watching this over and over and over again. Anytime I need a little pick-me-up, this will be a nice bright spot of joy in my life. It's just, I'm so excited to see what comes next from the DCU. This movie feels like the start of something new and something huge. And the DCU could be the next big cultural zeitgeist for the next decade or more. Like, this feels like an event on top of just being a satisfying, well-rounded film. I just love dogs so much, man. Anytime Superman and Krypto were on screen together during this movie, there was just a big fat smile across my face. Dogs are just literally the best. They just love us so much, man. So, thank you all so much for watching. Like this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you enjoyed it. Even more than that, leave a comment down below letting me know your thoughts, either what you thought of Superman the movie, what you thought about what I had to say about Superman the movie. I'd love to keep the discussion going. Anything you want, drop it down there. I'll be sure to respond to that. And yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. Have a great night and keep it crispy.